So Roxanne isn't coming, do we know for sure?
She's not.
Okay.
She's not.
All right. So it is 6 o'clock, so we'll call our meeting to order as soon as we get the high sign. Are we ready? We're ready. Okay, so we will call our meeting to order. Any additions or deletions to the agenda for this evening? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve it as is presented.
So moved.
Support.
Last chance. Any comments, questions? All those in favor be yes.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
opposed, no. Motion is carried. We have an agenda. Roll has been taken.
Yes.
It has been, yes. Next up is Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we would entertain a motion for the approval of the July 12, 2022 regular session meeting minutes.
Move approval. Support.
Any additions, corrections, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor would be yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is carried. Moving down to communications, we are in receipt of communication from Les Roseanne regarding the Charles Avenue Trailhead parking lot. Your pleasure.
Move to receive.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any comments or questions?
I can address some of that stuff
Okay.
now, if you'd like. At our last meeting, we discussed a little bit about removing the fence that was there. And it's been kind of an ongoing situation. The main reason why we're putting the fence up was to deal with some headlights shining across the street from the parking lot into the adjacent homes across Charles Avenue. Originally, back in 2021, 2021, it was decided to go look at a fence, and the height that was talked about was a 5-foot fence that it would definitely block all trucks that are bigger and that sort of thing. That was brought to Planning Commission on September the 13th, and the Planning Commission does have the authority to discuss and provide amendments to the landscaping and to buffering type fences, walls, those sorts of things. So the Planning Commission reviewed the request to put a 5-foot fence in instead of a 3-foot fence. Since the park is located in a residential area, our ordinance says the highest you can have a fence in a residential area is 3 foot. 3 foot is 3 inches shorter than this. This is 3 foot 3 inches tall. So it'd be 3 foot 3 inches shorter than that. So it was felt that that would be definitely take out all the headlights. When the fence arrived, they started to put it up, and soon realized as they put it up, the fence was 6 foot tall. That wasn't just 5 foot; it was 6 foot. So we stopped. They contacted the company and said, "Well, we're not going to, send another fence. This is how you lower that height of that fence." That was going back and forth for a while. Then obviously winter came about, and it sat there until here this last spring. After taking in some comments and concerns about the height of what was there, that height is too high. Obviously what was out there was a 6-foot fence. It was more of a wall than it was a buffering fence, which the intention was to knock down headlights. So after listening to different comments, what Public Works came up with was to lower the fence down to 4 foot, which would put us, if we were sitting right here, it would put us about right there, is where the fence would be. That would definitely knock down most truck headlights, a normal truck headlight, and car headlights, but still provide vision from the street into the park, so you can see the pavilion, the the sculpture, and anything back behind there. So, when we received the communication, I asked the staff, they had the fence down at that point, to just hold off until we talk today on putting that back in. I did talk to Ms. Sheldon today and explained what the purpose of the fence was. It wasn't to block the pavilion or block the sculpture or block any of that stuff. It was just it was just too big. And discussed the 4-foot height and what that's trying to accomplish, and she understood. So I guess from there, we have the fence in hand to get this done, get it, finally completed. So I guess I'll stop talking. That's where we're at with it.
Okay, who has the first question?
I have no questions.
Is it a solid fence? I mean, would it look something like the front of this? as
It's
opposed to
it's a
big-
plastic.
Okay. Similar to what was there, only shorter?
It's the same fence,
Only shorter.
and we're just cutting it down to 4 foot,
Okay.
and it will follow the contour of the ground,
Great, okay.
going from north to south.
And I guess in retrospect, and I was on the planning commission, so I remember when that was talked about, and I recall, questioning the color of the fence in
Yeah.
particular, because black is subject to fading, and, if you have to replace a panel, it's not gonna match, but whatnot. One thing we didn't consider that I don't recall talking about was alternatives that, like Mr. Roseanne raised in his letter, and, shame on me and others for not thinking of it, but why don't we just close that park? The restrooms automatically lock at a certain point in time. Why not just close the parking lot at dusk, the way we do Conservation Park, and just say, you can't park there at night? So the headlights won't bother any of the neighbors, because, with a fence along that line, and I know we talked about at the time at that meeting, while that fence line across it's gonna be the west side of that parking lot, does block the lights from going across the street into those houses, people going in, turning around, and maneuvering in and out, whatever, lights are gonna hit houses to the south of the end of that parking lot, which is even closer to the parking lot. I would think we should consider just closing it up. There's really no need for that parking lot after dark. It basically serves the rail trail and perhaps this college soccer fields behind there. And you typically don't do either of those, or very limited activities in the night for either of those. So that would be one thing. And perhaps even the more concerning thing that has not been addressed here is the fact that that fence was ordered prior to authority being given to the city manager at the time, which wasn't you, I get that. But to me, that is even more troubling here. The fact that in Mr. Roseanne's research, he uncovered through the FOIA, of the information he FOIA'd, that the fence was actually ordered prior to it being approved. When staff sat here at that meeting, and when I questioned it being black, they were very defensive that, it's got to be black. We've already decided that. You can't change your mind now. Not saying it's already been ordered. It's already on order. It's on its way. And then after the fence was halfway installed, there was 5 or 6 panels, something like that, put in. When we questioned why it wasn't completed, because it was supposed to be, I don't know if it's 10 or 12 panels across there, but it was only half put in. When we questioned that, staff said, the company sent the wrong thing. We're going to get them to send something new. And we've never been given an update. We never understood, was it really the company? I got to question what we're being told, what kind of information we're being given when they said the company sent the wrong thing and we're going to reorder it, or they're going to send a new one. And that never happened. It really bothers me that I feel like I was, at the very least, misled about what's going on with this whole thing.
Yeah, the fence that was ordered was a 5-foot fence, and they ordered the email.
Then how does the company not make it right? I mean, how do they turn around and tell you, no, you've got to spend your own time, material, or labor to cut this thing down? And we were told at the time that we were ordering this fence, and rather than going to a local installer, it was supposed to be stronger and whatnot, and it turns out a section of it fell down in the wind when no other fence in town did that I'm aware of.
It is supposed to be rated at 130, yes. That's what was purchased.
Yeah, and yet it fell down. And so what is this company we're ordering from? I think more investigation needs to take place, or some answers about this. And I get you were not the city manager at the time that ordered that, but it's very troubling to me that that occurred prior to authorization being given. And then the fact that by omission, when we were talking about it, we were not told. That is extremely troubling. I think we need some answers about that. Somehow that was approved, and nobody bothered to mention to the commission that, hey, this was already done deal before you approved it. How does this happen? And what can we do to prevent it from happening again? I don't think it's fair to this body to have things happening and without us knowing about it.
Well, in that case, the case of the purchase, I mean, the city manager had the authority to purchase up to that amount. Now, I can't speak to the timeline of, being ordered and getting it to city or planning commission. Because planning commission, obviously, it meets later in September because of Labor Day, but it still would have been a little bit different from the time that it was ordered. So I can't answer any more than just that it was ordered on, I believe the paperwork said August the 2nd, or September the 2nd, and the planning commission meeting was September the 13th. That's all I can, that is what happened.
Well, I think at the very least, now it's my understanding, and we haven't had a finance meeting in a while, but I think our process includes, we've got purchase cards. Department heads have the ability to purchase things. And it's my understanding that those purchase cards are approved by you. So everybody under you, your staff, you see all their receipts for the month, you approve their purchases. Yours gets approved by the finance director? Is that the current process?
Yeah, that would be the current process, yeah.
Okay. And that's fine, I'm okay with that, but I think at the very least, a copy of that bill about what's spent, because you, as a city manager, report to us, and you're
Oh, yeah.
being signaled out because of your predecessor's behavior, but I think we need to see a copy of that in our monthly packet. We should see a copy of that invoice monthly of the details of what your spending is. Just because we have
the
oversight.
city manager, what they're spending?
Yes. Because we have the responsibility to oversee the activities of the city manager, I think we need to see the copy of that bill. So that if we have questions what's going on, it's not just buried.
And why
in the
are we
finances.
changing it? I mean, has it ever happened in the past in the commission?
Oh, who knows?
Okay. I just wondered why all
I
of a
think
sudden now we're changing it.
transparency is good for everyone. You know,
But if we allow them a certain dollar amount to be able to spend,
It's not, I think it's the
I guess
time,
I'm
the timing is the
confused.
issue for me in this one.
Yeah.
It's like he spent.
It's the
before
timing,
that.
and then the fact that he
Back-
didn't, I mean, if he would have said, oh, well, we already ordered it
I
because
get
we
that,
got a
should we
deal.
write him up? He doesn't work here anymore. I mean, I think we're getting upset about something that another city manager did. I mean, that's, right? I mean, are we not going on about something that Matt did?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
But we're
Okay,
trying to,
so
we're
he's
trying
not
to
here
prevent,
anymore.
we're trying to prevent these things from happening again in the future, is all.
Okay.
You know,
And-
I just feel like we have processes in place that maybe would work for Eric. that
Right, and
didn't
there's a
work-
lot of
that
things
didn't
you're
work for
okay
me.
with, Audra, that I just am
know,
not
Greg.
comfortable with,
I
you
know.
know? I'm just not, I'm not comfortable
That's
with a
fine.
lot of things you are, so.
That- hey,
I think we need to take the responsibility of oversight a little
micromanagers.
more seriously.
I take this very seriously, thank you.
We can provide, it's not a problem with the visa, I have no problems with that whatsoever, so. That's
And
easy
I don't
enough.
think it
That's
should
easy
be,
enough.
no.
It's easy enough to do every month, so, or every meeting,
Well, it's probably a monthly
It
bill,
is a
so
monthly
that's
bill.
probably fine.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, the closing at night and all that kind of thing, I'm not sure whether that's the best idea or not. I think going ahead and making sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. But in the meantime, what about the fence? Are we ready to put in the 5-foot fence? The 4-foot fence, yeah. We're ready to put that in. We're ready to install it.
I believe so, since the planning commission already approved it. We'll just make sure that it's the 4-foot fence.
The thing with closing it like at dusk or something, if I'm out on the rail trail and I've had a flat tire and my car is there and I'm gonna have to walk my bike back from Riverdale and, don't get here until 10 o'clock or something, I don't wanna find my car locked up in there either. I think the fence is fine. And I think whatever we have now, let's just go ahead and do it. It is what we've got. Everybody around is okay with it. Let's just go ahead and do that. But then if we need to take a look at some past practices and correct them, that's fine. That's a second thing to have happen here.
I guess I just want to throw this in there too. I talked to Sandy Sheldon a couple of times about this after I heard, Mr. Roseanne and what he had to say. And, you know, Sandy Sheldon, Scott Sheldon's wife, widow, I should say, and that sculpture is Scott Sheldon, so obviously she has deep feelings about this whole thing. And you know, if she had her wish, the fence would have been maybe a different color and whatever, but she understands, and she, you know, Eric explained it all to her today, talked to her today, and I talked to her afterwards, and she understands, and you know, she's okay with all of this. So that part of it,
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think we're done with. You know, the only two questions, I guess, is the question of if you take it upon yourself to order something before it's been approved, unless you did it, you could do it on a contingent basis. You could say, hey, look, I don't know that this is gonna be approved, but I wanna get it ordered now, because if it's gonna be approved, it'll be quicker. As long as that was understood, I guess that might be different. And then the other question is, from the legality of it, when the fence is sent and you could reject it, should that have been rejected, and then, you know, all of that stuff. But there might be legal fees involved in that too, and I guess you have to take all that into consideration as well, so. But, you know, from a technical standpoint, until the planning commission says yes, then, you know, it's not on order. Like I said, I think.
And you never know, they could have had you have a 30-day window
Well,
or something,
and it could
you
have
know, to
also
order
been,
something.
hey, look,
I don't know.
we'll let you know if something changes, but we'd like to get it ordered now because it might be quicker. And that could have happened. And if that happened, I don't think it's as big a deal. But, yeah, I mean, technically, I think Greg's right. I mean, it's getting the cart before the horse, I guess.
Right.
That's true.
Okay, everybody else? Moving now to hearings. We need to set a public hearing for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022 at 6 PM or as soon thereafter as the agenda will allow, for the purpose of determining whether the following described premises shall be designated as an established commercial rehabilitation district under PA 210 of 2005. And the property is described as 111 West Superior Street, also known as 29-51-031-038-15. Your pleasure.
Move to set the public hearing.
Support.
Motion support. Any additional comments or questions and background from staff?
This is the bookshop downtown. They're adding a coffee shop to the eastern portion of the building, and they'll be doing some modifications from HVAC and such on the west side. So this particular request will be just on that ground floor of that commercial.
It's the east side though, right?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry, yes, with the coffee shop will be the east side, and they're doing some modifications to the west side also where they're doing that.
Okay. All right. We have a motion in place. All those in favor be yes.
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 Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Let's the hearing. Moving on to agreements. Consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of engagement letters between the City of Elma and Elma Transit and Yo CPAs and business consultants for the purpose of conducting annual year-end audits for a total fee of $28,985. Also to authorize the city manager to sign both letters on behalf of the city and the Elma Transit Center.
So moved. Move to approve.
Okay, we have motion support. Comments or questions?
This is here we're going to the audit season again, so these are our engagement letters, so we can get the preliminary stuff going from our office to their offices.
Okay. Anybody else? All those in favor be yes.
Yes.
Any opposed is no. Motion is carried. Next up, consideration of a resolution to approve change order number 1 and change order number 2 to the contract with Ward's Excavating for the Francisco Avenue Reconstruction Project, effecting a total contract increase of $23,639.77 due to the additional work required to lower an existing water main and to add a drive culvert. Your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Support.
Yep.
Okay. Comments?
Yep, this is the last two change orders we need to do to get this project ready to close out. There was a punch list item that has to be repaired. One of the driveways, the concrete started to spall, so that has to be removed and replaced, and they're working on that this week. So probably at our next city commission meeting, we should have our final payout with these change orders, so we can close out this project.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Reports of officers, boards, and committees. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. This evening, we have reports from the Planning Commission of July 11, 2022 draft meeting minutes, the Finance Report, and the City Manager's Report. Your pleasure.
Move to receive the planning commission and the finance report.
Support.
Okay, motion support. Last chance for comments. All those in favor be yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. I want to entertain a motion to receive the City Manager's Report,
So moved.
Support.
and I presume you want to give us your report.
Yes, I do.
verbally,
Yep,
so
yes, I do.
Why don't you go first?
Yep. The first one will be the phone bids, and that is under unfinished business. Apologize to the commission, but on the spreadsheet that we provided in the bid tab in the last commission meeting was missing a column with some upfront costs underneath the lease costs. The staff recommended Cherry Road Technologies for our new voice over internet protocol phone system, and we recommended the 5-year lease. As opposed to the purchase over the 5 years. After the meeting, Mayor asked for if we could take a look at the bid proposal, because the questions that were asked last week, it just wasn't making, just wasn't fitting together. But there was a upfront cost for the lease that was not on your original spreadsheet. That upfront cost for the lease is $8,979. The upfront for the purchase, that number is correct, and that would be $23,423.81. What that does though is we did last meeting did approve the lease for the 5 years, but with this upfront cost from the lease agreement, this does bring your dollar amount closer together with purchase versus lease and vice versa. When you add in the lease upfront costs, that brings our purchase price to the lease price within, this puts it over at $14,508.39 more than when we looked at the previous bid tab, which was $5,623 over the life of the 5-year life. Which turns out to be if we were to go down the route of leasing, we're looking at $241.81 per month extra in the lease agreement as opposed to outright purchase. And obviously, like we discussed at the last meeting, the lease is more of that insurance policy. If phones go bad, technology changes, that the phones get switched out automatically without having to buy new ones. But there is a substantial savings. If you look over the 5-year period, we're looking at $14,508 that is saved over the year if you buy the phones up front, as opposed to doing the lease. IT Rate did let me know that City of Wellington just went through a conversion, and they were back and forth with the lease versus purchase, and they ended up going with the purchase. And what they did to help give themselves, I guess, some insurance, was they bought a few extra phones to have on hand, so if something went bad, they just unplugged them and plugged it back in. Cost of these new phones are around $200 a piece, so that you buy a couple extra to have around. So that's pretty much the long and the short of it. We're still, when you look at all the prices, in the 3-year and the 5-year, no matter if you're looking at lease or purchase, and their experience and their resume, we're still recommending Cherry Road Technologies as the vendor, but it's kind of up to what the board thinks if they rather purchase or lease over that time period.
Questions? We talked last time a little bit about, and Nick brought up virtual phones. Have you looked at any of those options? Have you talked to any staff that might like to reclaim some of the real estate on their desk to
Yep.
go to a virtual phone?
Some of them can already, it'll go right to their cell phone as opposed to going to.
Okay,
anything.
that's a different program though. That's called forwarding, which is great. I mean,
Yes.
that works well too. But a virtual phone actually eliminates the need for that physical object on your desk. And it's a screen on your computer. It just appears there, and it acts just like a telephone. You just don't have that piece of equipment on your desk. It's just software, because they're operated as a computer virtually anyway. So did you look at the cost of installing some of those, if any of the staff would be interested in that option?
We could, what we.
Is
that would
there,
probably-
is there an option with this company to do that, I guess maybe is the first question.
I would assume they could. From reading through their bio there, they probably could do that. Because with the phones that they were, probably was the spec that we were looking for, and that's the other phone, the other companies put in those specs for those phones, that phone also. But if someone didn't want a phone on their desk and, save $200 or so, per phone, that'd be fine. I mean, we wouldn't need the lease on that phone or the purchase on that phone, so.
Okay, I just think it's, I mean.
It's an option.
I have one in my work, and works great on my laptop. I still have one on my desk, a physical one. I never thought about getting rid of it until Nick mentioned that, but, because I use my laptop when I'm traveling, when I'm working from home or whatever, but, so it's virtually like I'm in the office. You don't know if I'm in the office or not when the phone rings. I just answer it and through my computer, and the screen looks just like my telephone. It's the same, 100% functionally the same. I don't know why we wouldn't offer it to them if we can save a couple $100. And I don't know what the app costs to do that on the phone. If it's $50 or whatever, it's still a savings, I would think.
Worth looking at.
Probably should be looked at.
Yeah, we can, if folks, because this is a replacement, not just here in City Hall, but across the departments. So if someone felt like, hey, I don't want, I'll be fine with their younger, and I'm good with working on my computer.
My
so,
experience is
yeah.
not just young people that like these. There's people that want the desk space. Really, it's what it comes down to for a lot of folks. Is they've gone to from working with paper and pencil on your desk, and they've got the same desk now. They've got 2 or 3 monitors on it, and they've got a keyboard, and they've got there just is no real estate left for anybody to do anything. So if you can reclaim a square foot of it, they're thrilled with it. So.
No, we'll put that option out
idea.
to folks within the organization if they'd like to go that route, and that could save us a few extra dollars here and there.
And what are you looking for? You want a motion on
Well,
this?
when we get down to the old
Lease versus
business,
purchase?
yep,
You're gonna
yep,
go there,
Yep,
okay.
we want to go on the old business, and if everyone's fine with looking at going with the lease option, we don't have to do anything. But if we do want to go down the purchase, then we would need to rescind our motion from last month, and then make a new motion to go with the 5-year purchase.
Okay,
So that would be the option there.
thank you.
Ordinance amendments, I just wanted to give you a quick update that we are working on 3 of them. Fireworks is the simplest one. That one's gonna be real quick, easy, just it'll mirror exactly what the state of Michigan's doing, so that one's simple. The ORV, currently, we kind of lump the carts, of course, underneath the ORV. They should be really 2 separate ordinances, so we started to draft some 2 separate ordinances for that.
Well, there was a change too.
Yes, yeah, yep.
There was a change in the state statute. The ORV statute, I think we used to incorporated golf carts. And that changed after our ORV ordinance. And so now there's a standalone statute on golf carts that's different, and it's substantially different in certain ways from the ORV ordinance. And the ORV ordinance is, or the state law is different now to the extent that we really do need to change ours to comport with the statute. So it's almost something we have to do on the ORV side. And then we figured we'd do a standalone on the golf cart side to mirror the golf cart. Got me saying
Yeah,
something.
no, right.
But anyway, those 2, and then, like the city manager said, the fireworks thing, the state law changed too as far as the holidays where you can use fireworks and the time that you're allowed to use those fireworks on those days. So that required us to amend our ordinance to conform with the state law. And I think you guys have our first crack at all of this. And I should say too, we met with Chief Overlock and Director Williams and the city manager to get the police department's input on the ORV and it was very helpful, the ORV and the golf cart ordinance. And so very soon, I just sent out a second version today that you guys might have already gotten, but
I have not
probably
sent
had
that
time
out. I have
to
not
take a
sent
look
that
at
out.
because it just came today. And there might be at least one more, but we'll have all that for you. And then if you folks have any suggestions too, obviously, we'd like to hear them, and at some future date, we'll get them all in line and get rolling.
And the hope is to make it much simpler for the officers too to deal with. Because right now, it's like, you're kind of lumped together and there's different stuff, different rules, so.
Just basically, do the new ordinances allow for more fireworks or fewer fireworks and stricter with the off-road vehicles and golf carts, or
The
more
golf-
lenient?
The golf cart statute is stricter than the ORV statute. But I think part of that is because the golf cart statute contemplates more of operating golf carts on city streets. And so it is more restrictive. The ORV statute started out way back in 2010 or whenever as a boost for tourism. I think and they wanted to allow cities up north to be able to, allow these things on their roads. And so it's different. And it has been changed. And we'll talk about, trying to make the ORV ordinance more akin to the golf cart ordinance and those restrictions to try to make it a little more consistent.
Okay.
But they're restrictive, obviously. But there is a difference between the two. And the fireworks ordinance, it tightens it up a little bit. It's funny, different days, less days, and the time allotted is makes a little more sense
Okay.
to anybody that has a young child that might be sleeping
Okay.
when you're blowing them off.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a change for the better.
We have a permanent fireworks business in town now too. The old Graco Credit Union is now
Oh,
a permanent fireworks
okay.
store.
There's still plenty of time to blow them off.
And party supplies,
And party supplies.
and party supplies.
And party supplies in there?
Yeah, like decorations for your home
Just don't
for
let 'em mash.
different holidays and
Oh, okay.
stuff like that.
I drove by it today and I just read their sign and it's,
But we'll be bringing that back, for, public hearings at some point in the future to get those amended and approved, so. Utilities coordinator position, I'm working through to, remove the assistant public works services, director position. And in the place of that, to add support, I am looking to, a utilities coordinator position, for that department. I did include the draft, job description in there. I've ran that, with the personnel committee, at this point. And so what we're looking to do is we'd like to create some redundancies in the water and wastewater plant. We are already trying to do that with our folks who are, now employed, wastewater. We have pretty much a brand new staff over there last year of getting them, in classes to get their certifications as move up. And the same thing in the water department between the distribution and the making of the water. So we're encouraging all our folks to get in there and get their certifications. And this role I see as, doing that same thing of getting those things done. At the same time, working on updates that need to happen in our GIS system. And then I really do need some help as we look through things like the phone system and things like that for security and training of our folks for security shortfalls that, you're always trying to make sure that people are on the lookout for something that may be a scam or trying to trick someone to do something. I could use some help with those sorts of things. This position would not be a non-supervisory position. And then as part of that job description, we have instituted in the job description that you show steady progress to those certifications. This would be a grade 6 position with a pay range from $48,225 to $62,729. The current assistant public services director position is a grade 9 position that runs from $62,000 and change up to almost $85,000. So, so if this is looks like a doable position to kind of create this redundancy we're looking for, and to get me some help on the IT system side of things, I'd like to present that to the commission on the next agenda for approval, and then move forward with some internal interviews.
So it's only gonna be posted internally?
That was my plan. If we found somebody internally that would fit the bill, that would.
And if
do that.
if we didn't find somebody that fit, then it would go outside.
yeah.
Right, yeah, so just to let you
Just
all
a
know
follow
that,
policy.
Danny, Roger, and I met with Eric and Sherry, and we spent a couple hours going over this, and
Yeah, we
very
did.
detailed, very, a lot of great conversations, and this is what we came up with, so just to let you all know that we talked about it.
Any of you can answer, implied in the whole, like, certification, I assume, not part of the job description, but part of the hiring process would be benchmarks. In other words,
Correct.
That's right.
how are you gonna demonstrate making progress towards certification?
Correct.
What?
And where the starting range would be, whether you'd come in as a
Yeah,
one or
so
a
you can up
level.
things up. Okay,
Right.
so you can put incentive to, okay.
Yep, exactly. Currently, every one of our water, which is your F licenses, your S, which is your distribution licenses, and your A, B, and C, and D is what the wastewater, how they rank themselves. Each one, no matter who the employee is, once they achieve those, there's a percentage bump that they receive for each certification.
Okay. So is this just distribution and wastewater, or is it water plant as well?
It'd be the water plant as well. Yep.
So does this have to go somehow through GAWA, or how does that, what's that relationship?
Well, it would be depending on what the job was of the day, we all bill out our time in different hours in different departments and different funds. If this position was doing some lab work or working in something that was related to GAWA, be a distribution, or not distribution, but in the water plant, that time would be billed to the GAWA board.
So that is our employee, but we would
Yes.
bill back GAWA
Yes.
for that, okay.
Yeah, they're all- and I was just more concerned with the agreement, without going back through the agreement and everything, just refresh my memory as to what authority we have to add staff there. Is it just as needed, we can do that?
As needed.
From
and-
this point of view, or does it have to be approved by the GAWA board that we're gonna start billing a portion of this person to the GAWA water production?
We don't need to get their permission. They're our employees, and but we do talk with them,
Okay.
about this stuff. Obviously, not obviously, but recently, the finance director in St. Louis instructed us, you should be billing a little bit extra on some different things that we're doing. So, so we're working with some of those things out too. But we've talked with our partners in GAWA, and they do
It's
see.
just St. Louis, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
our only
yeah,
partner
yeah,
at this
yeah,
point,
yep.
so.
And they understand the issue, the pickle that we got put into when we had a great, very qualified person that took over as superintendent of the water plant, and then they decided that they wanted to go back where they lived before, and we're working through that. And so once our current employee that's working through the testing process, he's got to pass this last test, and he'll have his F1. And so that would relieve, right now, we have one of our other water treatment personnel.
We don't have
that's
to know
one.
that.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay, I'm
that's
sorry.
fine. I just
Yep.
want to make sure that
Yep.
we're not gonna do anything to impede the agreement we have with St. Louis, that we're following,
No,
you've looked at it.
Yes,
basically, that's all I was
we're in
concerned
good
about.
shape there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Street maintenance projects, just wanted to give you a rundown of some great projects that are happening in the neighborhood streets. We've done 4 chip seal project streets, Marquette Boulevard, Penrith Street, I'm sorry, more than 4 and 5. Valley, Walnut, Allen, and West End Street, those streets that are mentioned there. Currently, the crew went through and wedged or asphalt patched the areas that needed to be taken care of. Then the company comes in and does this work. They put down the seal coat stones, and then they'll be back in the next week or so to put the final fog coat on, which is a sealant that will hold the stones down, and it basically be almost like a brand new surface there. And then just also wanted to fill you in that we talked about in our when we did budget for this fiscal 2024 year, some asphalt patches and wedges and some other things to start to put together back some streets that these things would work on and make them more drivable surfaces. We have one on Prospect, West End, Austin, Ely, South River, Allen, Glencoe, Bostwick, North Euclid, Chatterton, Sanford, Hawthorne, Garfield, and Williamette. So we're kind of all over the town doing some improvements to the neighborhood streets. Along with that, we do have some dates now planned for the street millage community informational meetings. Those will all be held at the Emma Public Library, August 25th, September 29th, and November 3rd. Those will be from 6 to 8 p.m. They don't necessarily have to be 2 hours long, but we did give ourselves that time in case it was needed. We will be meeting obviously with service clubs, but if there's another club or group that's within the city that you think would be a good organization to reach out to talk about the neighborhood street millage, we'd be glad to sit down with them and walk through it. Gratiot Community Airport, to give everyone an update on that, attended the Gratiot County Commissioners meeting last Tuesday, and the County Commission did pass a resolution to negotiate with the authority board, the airport authority, current airport authority board, to potentially take over the operational and financial responsibilities of the Gratiot Community Airport. I don't really have too much in specifics right now, what that may ultimately all look like. But the one thing from our side of things, the other partners don't have, is that we do own property out there, because we've been a part of the airport since the very beginning. Our other partners, 2 townships and the other 2 cities, they don't have the same vested interest that we do, so we'll have to be a little more involved in how that may plan out. And then the last couple items here are just some updates from some departments that we wanted you to know about. The assessing department provided some information. They were helping out with some training on Pivot Point program with the Gratiot County Equalization Office, and walked them through how that worked, and went out in the field and did a demonstration with them for that. So working together there. And then to give you also provided some stats on the library summer reading program. They've done very well this year with their attendance. In June, they had 565 total attendees. July 2022, this is the last week of everything. They've had 287, and then they've had 4 different special type of events, and they had a total of 520 attendees there. And there's some other statistics that the library provided for you. So lots of good things happening there too. So
A question and a comment. First question, wasn't Harvard, a redo of Harvard on the agenda for this year?
yes, the stuff that was coming back from the contractors, they were saying, well, if you want to put it out for bid, it was going to be way out of what our budget was going to be.
Okay,
So we will be bidding it out in January.
okay. So not happening this year.
We're not having this year, yes. And then and it'll be, also Iowa will be going out at
Okay.
the same time, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And a comment on the library. There was a very interesting article or a show on, it's either CBS Sunday Morning or Saturday Morning or 60 Minutes or something like that, about libraries and the changing view of libraries. And one of the things that I thought just sounded like a really good idea, libraries have changed their name from library to library and community center. We no longer have a community center, but a library can be a community center. They're adding coffee shops and all kinds of things that, if you have $1 million to do that stuff. But there's no reason why our library can't take the place of a lot of the stuff that happened at the community center. Just, meetings and informal stuff and rooms where you can actually make noise as opposed to being quiet and that kind of thing. I just thought it was a neat idea to rename the library and community center. Just a thought.
A very good one. I think, we talked when we demolished the community center that if we ever built another one, it would be logical to add it onto the existing library. And I think the library currently is actually functioning as somewhat of a community center
So
for
we
us.
might as well call it
Their
that.
meeting rooms are very,
and-
very active.
And when people say you don't have a community center anymore, well, yeah, we do. You can't go swimming there, but you can.
Just different.
Just different, yeah. Not a bad idea.
You can read about stuff.
You can read about swimming.
Other questions? Comments? First, kudos to Kathy and the assessing team, once again demonstrating that they are head and shoulders above most other teams in the state. They are clearly one of the leading assessing teams. We are very fortunate to have them, giving demonstrations to, like a greater entity. I mean, they're just looked upon throughout the state as, it's just phenomenal that we have a team like that here doing the work for us, so we're very grateful for that. Also wanted to add, the library, while those statistics are great, deal with numbers a lot. It's hard to look at numbers for me and not say, what does this mean? I'm trying to figure out, you know, we've had a lot of conversation about the library and the amount of money we spend on the library. You know, if we can start, if we're gonna get statistics, can we, what was it compared to last year? What is it compared to what happens in St. Louis and Ithaca libraries? Are we doing 5 times as much as St. Louis Ithaca? Are we doing half as much? I mean, are we doing double what we did last year? Are we doing triple? Are we doing a quarter? I don't know, but when I see numbers, more questions appear, so. I don't know what data's available, but the more we can get context with the numbers, 500 attendees, does that include the family members that come, or is that just strictly readers? You know, all kinds of questions come to mind. To put it into context, to get it, just to wrap my head around things a little bit better. And obviously, year-to-year statistics are always great. It shows a trend line. Are we doing better than we did? Are we doing worse? And then maybe we can explore why. If we're doing better, we want to do more of it if we can. If we're doing worse, what can we fix? What do we need to fix? And
So you want it, like right here, it says 287 to date total attendees. Adult was 175, children were 377. Do you want it broken down more than that and compared to last year?
Yeah.
well, I'm just
probably.
looking for more trend lines. How do you put it in context? How do we compare to others? I mean, the numbers are great, but what
Right,
do they
and we're
mean?
bigger library than the city of Ithaca.
Right, so I would expect it to be a bigger number than what, say, Ithaca or St. Louis does, because we are a bigger city. But if we're not, then we should be asking why we're not doing more than they are. Or, is there ways to combine programs to make them more efficient? I don't know what the answers are. but
No,
just-
we can work with the staff and talk to them about what can we come up with some benchmarks and marking and looking at how we can. Yeah, definitely. That's.
I mean, it's
that's
just the way you
doable.
manage
Yeah,
things.
Yeah, that's
It's
doable.
always good to ask questions.
Yeah, that's doable. No, I just we're just trying to get. some
500 might be
yeah.
it may be the best year ever, and God, it's great to run 500 kids through a reading program. I mean, that's never a bad thing to get kids to read. I don't mean that by any stretch of the imagination.
No, we can work with them, and obviously they're willing to try to put some things together that
Right.
are useful for everyone to make decisions. So
And help them make the case for what they're doing too, and help better manage their programs as well, so.
with each other. But I saw we add a couple things. We don't get a lot of things from the library and from assessing, so we were able to provide something this year this meeting to get you up to speed with some things they're doing. So
And the downside of giving this information is it just makes us ask more
yeah,
questions.
that's fine. No, that's it's all good stuff.
Yeah,
It's all good
okay.
stuff.
And, yeah, it's taken in the right spirit, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Last chance? Okay, all those in favor of receipt of the report, would you say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. We have received the report. Thank you, Eric. No appointments, unfinished business. Consider action regarding additional information received on the VoIP phone replacement system bids for the Alma municipal facilities. Anyone care to make a change? I think we need to make a change one way or the other, because we didn't allow enough funding if we want to continue leasing for that program. So we either have to increase the leasing amount or change to a purchase amount.
Do we need to make 2 motions, one to void what we did 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago?
That might be the cleanest way, but that's your pleasure, how you
I
want
think
it.
either way.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
because-
or we could do it together. I would move to void the,
Or rescind, I guess.
rescind the order, the business we did 3 weeks ago, whatever that date
The
was.
previous authorization?
Previous authorization, and to do the purchase option.
Okay, we have support?
Support.
Okay, we have motion support on the table. Are there any comments or questions?
Did I get everything in there that we needed to have in there, I think, to do that? We don't need to talk about the,
Are you satisfied, Sarah, that you have a good motion?
Are you?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Basically rescinding what we did before, and I think it's pretty
Well,
straightforward
and
to
then,
me, so.
but the second part of
you
that
had the second part was to go
is to go
ahead to.
purchase as opposed to lease.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, I did miss that. My
Yes.
apologies.
Yes. And if that needs to be 2 motions, then it can be.
It's your motion, you can and I believe your support, was that the way
Yeah,
you understood it as well?
Yes. it is
Okay,
always-
so we do have a motion on the table to rescind the previous authorization to lease at that lower amount, and combining that with a motion to now move to a purchase program at the same number, which was, forgive me.
It was a five-year purchase at $110,896.01,
Total contract price.
total contract price.
Okay,
That's it.
so that is the motion on the table. Are there any comments or questions?
Eric, what was the timetable for that? Did we have to have a decision made by?
Well, the phone order has to go in very soon. They're talking 10 to 15 weeks possibly to get phones, hopefully sooner than that, but it's really tight. If that's the right time period, right, Curtis?
So that was the estimate
Estimate that they gave
was
us.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
Likely lead time, we need to be in place and operational by November 1st.
And once again, was this Cisco equipment, the phones?
It's Cisco-based, yes.
It wasn't the Chinese,
No,
I mean, just
No.
I don't know a lot about
it's
that whole
not like,
thing, but
it's
that-
not like the.
I forget the name of that, Hoya or something, whatever that company
Yeah.
is, that
Yeah, it's a clone, but it's
that
not
the government
like,
is warning against using,
Yes,
so
exactly.
we're not going with something like that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
no.
Do we need to add to have extra phones purchased for backup to that, or can you just do that when you want?
I would like to probably have that in the motion, so we have the funds to say we can go do that.
So do you care to increase your amount then in your motion? To allow for a purchase of some additional phones if needed?
Yeah, I think we should put a number in there to start with, because we can buy them again, can't we, or can we not?
Yeah, it's just, you just never know what the prices
Okay.
may do, and
All right.
that's
What's,
what,
what's your recommendation? How many phones
Well,
extra?
if
And it may depend on if you get 8 or 10 people that want just a virtual phone and they
Then
don't
you
want
may
a
not
physical
need
phone,
those,
you may
yeah.
not need them,
May
so
not need
you'd
them.
wanna do a
You could
max
say up to.
authorization.
just
Up
do
to.
it up to, say up to 1,000, because that'd be 5 phones.
Okay, all right. Amend the motion
Friendly
to.
For an additional 1,000. And you're, well, good with that,
Support
okay. Again, comments, considerations?
The only comment I would make is just so the commission's aware, is that we did not budget in the budget to purchase the phones. So we will either need to have a budget amendment to add money to this year's budget to afford the phones, or we're gonna have to take away something we were planning to do. So, it's neither
Okay.
here nor there, we can do either one, I just wanted to make sure that was out there.
Okay, and the impact of that is gonna be the net between whatever the rental was, I think it's a $500 a month rental and then the purchase price, whatever that is, 6,000, so
Right,
you're
just that
talking
upfront, yeah.
18,000 or so probably for
And
1
it
year.
will be split up in, based on the different departments, so it won't all be general fund,
Yeah.
but I just wanna make sure everyone was.
It's reasonable. But over 5 years, there's a
Absolutely.
$14,000
Yeah,
savings.
Almost,
so,
yeah, almost
so
15,000, yeah.
In the long run, I think it's in our best interest. Okay, anybody else? Last chance, all those in favor would be yes?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
opposed would be no? Motion is carried. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving down to appropriations, is anybody in favor of paying the bills?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Commissioner comments? Danny, would you like to go first tonight?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Roger?
I finally have, as of today, Lucky McDuck tickets, so they will be on sale starting Saturday. Went to the meeting with Alma Alive yesterday to kind of coordinate the two things, and I think we're doing a nice job of that this year. I did speak to Rory, what's his last name, you know?
Oh, Corey?
Yeah,
Neal?
or Corey, I'm
Neal.
sorry,
Yeah,
not
Corey Neal, yeah.
Corey Neal, who owns the trolley, just to see if we could get some kind of a shuttle going back and forth between downtown, and he was really excited about doing that. The only problem is that thing is battery operated, so we've got about a 3-hour life on it, so we're gonna try to find the best 3 hours to run it. But he's real excited to run the shuttle back and forth for exposure for him and for kids to get a ride on it if they want. It's not a great distance, so we wouldn't have very far to travel. We're going from the library parking lot someplace up to Pine Avenue, to Superior and Pine, so it's a matter of a couple blocks, really. But be kind of a neat thing to have, so excited about that.
Great news. Thank you.
Kids Play opens next week, by the way, and it's fantastic. I went over and watched it 2 days last week. They needed a little help on some stuff, and it's amazing. These are kids who are putting on almost a full-blown version of the Music Man. It's an hour shorter than the long play. Some of the stuff is cut, if you're familiar with it at all. The long dance scene in the library doesn't exist in the Kids Play, because that'd be really difficult for them to do. But everything else is in there, barbershop quartet and shapoopy and, trouble and all that kind of thing. They're doing a wonderful job of it. You're gonna love it. Joanne is going crazy trying to fit all of those adult-sized costumes that we got into people who are 4'2" tall.
I have a lot of faith she can do that.
Yes, she is.
Audrey.
I was gonna share, I was in Mount Pleasant last week downtown and shopping, and, lady said, oh, where are you from? I said, Elma, and she said, oh, I love your downtown. She said, you guys have the best downtown, and she said, how do you do that? Because we can't get that going here, and I said, well, we have this great, crew of Keep Elma Beautiful and downtown development and all these things, and she was so impressed. She said, we don't have anything like Keep Elma Beautiful, because I was telling her about, all that you guys do, and she says, in fact, we have these big orange boxes. I don't know if you've been in downtown Mount Pleasant lately, but these big orange plastic boxes, and she said, and they don't have a downtown development authority anymore. And so I just thought it was neat, because I always think of Mount Pleasant's kind of the big brother, the big sister to, and she was like, we wish we could be like you. And I was like, wow, that's really great, And so I said, well, I have to share that with the other commissioners, because that's neat to, be in downtown and hear that this is what they're trying to be like. So it was pretty neat, yeah. So.
Very good. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Michelle?
Tomorrow night, we're having Keep Elma Beautiful cleanup downtown. Next
Opportunity.
Yes. So 5:30, Eric, at the chamber office?
Yep.
5:30 at the chamber office. And then also next week is the Gratiot County Fair for Youth. So, and then Avalon is having their dealership sale. There's a lot of cars and new people in town this week. So, that I've seen. It's very packed over there when you drive by,
Yes.
which is good. So,
The place is amazing.
Yes.
Just a couple things to add to the Keep Elma Beautiful. There's a group of folks working on standards for public art and how you might do that so there's consistency, and so there's all those places we've talked about what are public-private partnerships. So eventually maybe come to the commission to talk about how that might look from the commission's end, and so that piece may come up. The other is, we didn't talk about this, but, and I may have missed the date, but the city police, well, police department is going through a certification process, and that's a pretty big
Yes,
deal.
good point.
And there's a public hearing, if that hasn't happened yet, is that
It
correct?
has not happened.
So stay tuned for that. I think that's information in the paper and it's out there on the website. So I think that's really an incredibly important piece for,
Yes.
just like you're talking about the other things, Audra, that's a real big deal. So just be aware of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Sarah? No? Tony?
I'm all set too, thank you.
Eric?
Just Lucky McDuck, along with that is Elmo Live. That's coming up on September 10th, and just to remember, the week after that is the CEC conference, Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities. So, a couple cool things. So that's it.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. And yeah, it's that certification for the police department is a great thing, and similar to Kathy in the assessing department, both of these departments take it upon themselves to become better and better all the time. So kudos to both of the departments and any of our other departments. I'm sure there's others doing things too that we're not talking about today, but doing everything we can to encourage staff to become world-class. And these clearly are two examples that are world-class. They're taking it upon themselves voluntarily to meet some higher standards than what is required for them just to do the job and continue to keep their jobs. So thanks to both of those teams. And in addition to everything else that everybody mentioned, right before this meeting, as I sat down, I got a text from Katie Tobias down at the insurance agents downtown here. And she's got a ribbon cutting scheduled for Monday, August 1, 2022. And let's see, it's at 12 noon, at 119 West Superior. And what's going on there is Katie and her team, I believe she employs, I think if I'm not mistaken, she employs some co-op students from high school. And these young students wrote a grant to the United Way to fund this, or to rebuild the cabinet that they've got out in front of their place of business. So they had on the sidewalk. Katie and her husband, I think, threw together this cabinet one time on a lark because they had some extra groceries, put it out on the sidewalk and said, if somebody needs something, come and get it. And there's people donating to that all the time. And then it's a very active cabinet. People that need things can come and get a can of soup or beans or vegetables or whatever happens to be in there. It's toiletries and all kinds of things. I understand it. So they got this grant from United Way to build this bigger, better cabinet. And they've raised some additional funds beyond that to make it even better yet. They've now added, I happened to see on my drive into this meeting tonight, that they've now got 2 picnic tables installed there onto the concrete. There's a big concrete pad that's been put in place, this great new cabinet. So on August 1st, they're gonna have a ribbon cutting to kind of celebrate this event or this new location, this place in downtown Elma. And Audra, it goes right along with what you were saying. I mean, this is just community members coming together, stepping forward, doing some work, and making the thing better. So kudos to these young people that put the grant together and everybody else that's donated on top of that to make this thing work. So, and invite everybody to that ribbon cutting. So it's
And
a really neat event.
They're also gonna ask that, people bring food to the ribbon cutting.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, a good idea. So you can bring a donation
Yeah,
and bring some
they asked
canned
for
goods, bring
people-
some
Yeah, they
paper goods.
definitely, I think it was last week, they mentioned that they needed like
Pet supplies, canned goods.
and toiletries
Toiletries.
Yeah.
and stuff too, so.
And to piggyback on that, the hospital also just put out a community cabinet
Oh, that's good.
for food, and they can hardly keep it stocked. It's going so fast.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I forgot which side of the hospital they said it was on. She just came to a meeting today and told us about it. But anyway, it's out there, so if people in the community are looking for food downtown, hospital area, there's places to
Yeah.
go. So.
Great things. And so
Yep.
thanks to everybody in the community that participates in that. It's amazing the number of times I'm just driving by, seeing people restocking that cabinet or taking things. I guess I don't know which one for sure anybody's doing, but it's a very active
Good thing.
place, and so it's good.
Yes.
All right. So with that, we'll open up to members of the public. If any members of the public would like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes according to our bylaws to share your thoughts with the commission. So welcome.
Excuse my throat today, sinus from the weather changing. I came up today to talk to you about.
Need your
why
name
we-
first.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Connie Fox at 326 West Hillcrest Street in Elma. Why we don't have the ability as a community to have a splash pad. Breckenridge has one, Shepherd has one, Carson City has one. I've spoken to Breckenridge and Shepherd both about, they went through grants and fundraising and that type of thing, and different costs that were involved, and who maintains it once it's in place. And both Breckenridge and Shepherd indicated that the villages are going to maintain. The only difference was Shepherd had a family who donated apparently $15,000. She said $5,000 per year for 3 years. And then after that, the village was gonna have the responsibility of maintaining it. And the community we live in, there's a lot of people that can't afford to drive to these different places to be able to take their children to have some fun and some water. And if you go to the pool, that costs money. And I guess my question is, why can't we do it?
No reason we can't. I mean, there certainly is nothing prohibiting it. It's just a matter of the leadership to put a group together, I think, to propose it, figure out how it's gonna work, and there's nothing prohibiting that from happening, along with any other number of ideas that could happen.
Well, I did speak with, no, I didn't speak, she contacted me, the person who was in, Andy Whitmore, that was in charge of the Dream Park, and she told me that they had approached that possibility, but the Dream Park, Wright Park, whatever it's called these days, had a lot of underwater springs or something, and so it wasn't feasible to put it there. So and
That's news to me, but
It was very.
that's what she
it's, yeah, it is
indicated
wet
to
there.
me.
There's drainage issues, but
Yeah, that's what she
I think
indicated
it'd
to
be easier
me.
to put it down.
yeah, water's already there, right? Just-
Liability insurance wise, both Shepherd and Breckenridge said very minimal impact because it's not standing water, it's draining all the time. And so I guess I wanted to be able to get something started, but I spoke with Mr. Ripley. I told him I'm just your average Joe. I don't know how to write grants. I don't know how to do those types of things. And it all kind of just started out as a posting on Facebook. And a lot of people were excited and many of them messaged me and said, I would really love to see that happen in Elma. And so in Breckenridge, the council members are the ones who started it over there. Shepherd didn't indicate to me who started it there, but both the clerks were very involved. You could tell they had a lot of information and so they were very involved in the process. And so I guess I have to go to Parks and Recreation and talk to them.
Connie, I will give you a break on that. We had the
Okay.
first meeting of Parks and Recreation last night, okay? And
Okay,
I am on that committee.
okay,
The master plan that we have had for Parks and Recreation for 5 years ended last year. So we are on a whole new master plan for Parks and Recreation. So I
Okay.
will tell you, it will be considered,
okay,
okay? It's a whole new ballgame, so
Okay.
it will be considered. There are
Okay.
pros, there are a lot of cons to it too, also,
yeah.
but it will be considered.
Well, and I didn't know if the commission had a place that the best case scenario is to have it where there's a park. Most of the communities, even Carson City, over there, it is right by a park. And so they already have restrooms. Shepherd is putting in a restroom area in theirs. And they're also going to have a little concession stand they're gonna set up where they can sell things out of it, probably to help fund it too. So, like I said, this just started out as a Facebook post, and so many people showed an interest, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm kind of responsible for starting this.
But I saw your post and I did see a lot of people responded and maybe if you did get that group together to like start working, on the cost and that type of thing and what people really want and, so that when the park committee is working on the master plan, they know, like Andy had said, they got together and got the costs and,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And so.
Well, and Breckenridge's cost isn't comparable to today because they put theirs in 2013. Shepherd had told me that theirs was $131,815, but they saved $20,000 because the village did part of the work. And, and there again, that's where we need to find, I do need to know currently what it would cost. Andy did tell me what the costs were for a 20 by 20 pad back when they were doing the Dream Park. And I looked at some companies online. Both of them have told me, Shepherd and Breckenridge both told me the companies that they used. And so I can certainly contact them and get some costs going.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know the people that would know how to write for grants. I know that.
Connie, one of the things that is imperative to the 5-year master plan is citizen input. So
Okay.
there will be meetings, okay,
Okay.
citizen meetings, that will take place just because it has to.
Okay.
So are you gonna have one next year? No, we won't have one by next year, but could we have one? Yes, we could, so.
Okay.
Come to
Okay.
those meetings and, I'm on the committee, so I'll see you anyway. So
Okay,
I
all
work
right.
with Connie.
Let me know when they have it.
Yeah, will do.
And I
Thank
don't-
you though.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know anything about the issues. I know Wright Park is wet in the spring and it always has been. I remember playing in the mud when I was a kid, but the issues there. But to me, almost, maybe the Elma school pool next to that might be a logical place too, where kids are swimming and the families are there.
Connie, there's a lot of
Thanks.
grant writers in the community too, if you put
Yeah.
that out on Facebook.
There's a lot of
A lot of
locations.
Yeah,
grant
there's a
writers
lot
in
of
the community,
potential
we probably get
locations.
one if
Yeah,
you put it out on
yeah, could
Facebook.
be.
Okay, okay. Well, I had thought about where the old swimming pool used to be, but if there's not a park area, and then you'd have the extensive
Yeah.
restrooms too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm John Lemmerman, 233 Purdy Drive here in Elma. And just wanted to thank Eric for coming out to the county commission meetings and to the township meetings that you're coming out to. You've been really helpful, you've been concise, and people always want to hear your opinion and your take on things. So I appreciate it. You've been a really good ambassador for Elma.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, guys. Alan Martin, Assistant Director of Operations, Consume Cannabis, 528 Warwick Drive, here in Elma. I know I've been up here every week for the past few weeks. My goal really is to, keep the doors open in Elma. We all went through the numbers. We've seen that the medical marijuana market is diminishing. Adult use is thriving, and unfortunately, after a short amount of time, we're not going to be able to keep the doors open at Elma without the adult use. I don't know what else I can do or what other information you guys need to consider, but I'd be more than happy to provide that if I can get that from you. We are a resource, and we want to be a resource, so any questions, we'd be more than happy to help with. Again, I would encourage any one of you or all of you to come and see our operation and see how we operate. The invitation is open. I have cards here I'm going to pass out to each of you. You have my contact information. Please reach out if you have any questions, comments, concerns. You need any information. I'd be more than happy to provide that to you. We've been here almost 2 years now, going on 2 years. I don't know of any violations at this point. We're doing it the right way. We want to be a resource for the community. I loved hearing about those cabinets that you guys have out there. That's perfect drive for us to do. It's very inexpensive. We can definitely help support the hospital food one specifically. We'll focus on that. But yeah, so we're here. We want to be here. We're happy to be here. We're just looking for the support from the city commissioners, to pave the way for us to stay here. So with that, I'll pass these out. I thank you again for your time, and I appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for
Yes.
Tony. So how come tonight it's okay to speak back and forth when they're up there for public comment, but other
I shouldn't
nights
have.
we're told not to do that?
I shouldn't
What's
have.
what's
Yeah,
the difference?
I don't
Thank
know, yeah, technically,
My bad.
it should just be their comments and that's it, I guess. I don't really have a good answer for you.
Yeah.
My bad.
Well, I prefer it, but
Yeah,
I've been silenced and told to be quiet on a number of occasions, so I just wondered what was the difference between
Yeah,
me speaking and answering someone's question versus what went on tonight, so I just wondered,
Well, I don't think
what
there's-
are the rules, I guess?
there's no difference between you speaking and
Yeah.
anybody else speaking, that I can tell you.
Yeah.
But as far as, yeah, it's an interesting issue, you know what I mean? I mean, we've been in situations, we all know about the situations we've been in where if we would've gotten involved in that, we'd be here till 11 o'clock and later, and maybe it wouldn't be productive. There are instances where it is, and I don't know. It's really interesting though, we've had township meetings that I've been to recently where they've had public input on, the wind turbines or whatever, and I've always thought it works better if somebody has a legitimate question that, that could be answered. It's better to answer it right then than it is to wait till the end of the public comment and then try to answer those questions. So to me, there's times where it really is helpful.
I
But
think
then
so.
again, there are times when it, you know what I mean? I don't know. So, I'm sorry. Can't
No,
answer your question.
I prefer, and I think that was very helpful to be able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have that conversation, but I think there's been times where a question is being screamed at us over and over, and
Yeah.
instead, why not just answer
Well,
it?
I tell
Instead
you,
of being told to,
we had a couple of
keep our
meetings
mouth
where
shut.
I started to talk and was, but it was probably a good
The
thing too,
rules
because if
just
I
seem
wouldn't
to
have been
be
shushed, it might have been, who knows, you might have
changed.
read about me or something. So, yeah, it's a tough call. No, I wouldn't,
Is there a
no,
way
that
to
wouldn't happen.
the back and forth, because I'm missing.
you're not supposed to ask us that, because no, I'm just kidding.
I don't know, but that's kind of what I was thinking too, because I wanted to ask questions, but I didn't think that was the appropriate time.
Just
So is
depends
there
on the
a-
topic, I guess.
And it's probably, really, it's probably something that we ought to, revisit. Because it does, it can last for a long time, and there are, you know what I mean? Maybe we
Yeah.
should consider it, maybe we shouldn't, maybe it should be,
Just
we should
seems
have
like-
time to.
Splash pad, okay, good to talk about
Yeah.
marijuana, we're not gonna answer your questions, you know, refugee stuff, we're definitely not gonna answer your questions, but, you know,
Mhm.
either there's a rule or there's not. So
Yeah.
what is it, you know, that's what
Yeah.
I don't really get what it is, I guess.
Well,
because-
the rule is, what
The
you
The rule is not, and
the
so
rule is what you think. it is.
if it's allowed, that's probably on me, is because I believe it's my duty to maintain order at the meeting, so
Gotcha.
when that rule is not followed, it's probably falls back to me, so I apologize for not being consistent in maintaining that order or that
Yeah, and
quorum at all times. Sometimes it just feels like it's the right thing to do, and sometimes it doesn't, so
yeah.
it's shame on me for not being consistent, I guess.
Is there a way to add the commissioner comments after the public comment, so that way if something's brought up, we can touch on it in our maybe 5 minutes? That way it doesn't drag on for an hour?
Well, it will drag on for an hour.
Well, you're
Because
still,
you'll-
you're
Yeah.
still limited to 5 minutes.
Well, but then, you know what I mean?
Then
It's
you
like,
can go back and forth.
once you start, it never stops.
But I'm saying all the public comment happens, all of it. They all sit down. Then as a commissioner, you can choose to say, you know what, this is my thoughts on it. They're not, the public's then not gonna come back up and have there's not gonna be a back and forth. There'll be
Yeah.
one volley, really.
I don't know. I've seen, I'll tell you what, I've seen it go on forever.
This
I mean,
And it's-
once you let the
bigger.
floodgates open, boy, they're open. And
I-
good luck trying to
Could
bring
you,
that in.
I mean, the only thing, to Danny's point, you put in an optional agenda thing is commissioner response.
The safest thing
Is to
would
leave
be
it
to,
go.
would be to abide by the rule, I guess.
Yeah,
That
it
would
would
be the
be.
safest way to do it, and say, listen, we'll get back to you. That's probably the safest way to do it. I mean, I
'Cause
think under the circumstances.
So many things really should be researched and facts should be established rather than
Yeah.
dealing in too many opinions, mine or anybody else's. It's,
I mean, I think it's legitimate, it's a good question, and it probably, we should maybe be a little stricter about it, just
Yeah.
because otherwise, yeah. There's
it can
really,
get carried away quickly, and
I think so.
but yet at the same time, we are community members as well as the community members we're talking to. We want to move things forward if we can and answer questions if we can. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. So is it appropriate to ask you a question now, Eric? And we've kind of hinted around this marijuana, years ago, a couple years ago when we first instituted marijuana, medical marijuana. We said, the state rules were up in the air. We didn't want to touch it until the state had some guidelines in there. We've been through a couple other hornet's nests since then. Is it time to have that conversation about recreational marijuana? What does the staff need? What kind of timing? When can we have and make some kind of an answer, get them an up or down, and, quit wasting his time and everybody else's time that's interested one way or the other?
The first time when we went through the medical marijuana, we did have a subcommittee that worked on it with staff and the attorney to come up with that. We could go down that line, or you could just say, me as staff and work with the attorney to come up with, some draft language and.
And I think you've
Bring
been
it back
looking
to-
at programs throughout the state right along,
Yes.
so I think you've probably got a pretty
Yeah,
good
I mean, so,
background already,
and
so.
the attorney's worked on
Well,
other ones
and
too.
you have
Yeah,
a
I
blueprint from the medical too.
Yes.
And it wouldn't, it's not reinventing the wheel.
And we now have some case law, I
Yeah.
think, too, that helps
Yeah, but
establish
here's,
processes.
here's something though, I mean, because obviously, I don't wanna be running it up either. I think there should be, the threshold question is, do you want it or don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Period. You want adult use in Alma, or don't you? Because if the majority of the city commissioners of the
Well, it's not
opinion,
use, it's
they
sales.
don't want adult use in the city, in the city of Alma, then I'd be wasting your money by going through and doing the ordinance. If I've been tasked with, okay, let's do an ordinance, and it's not gonna take a long time, because I've worked on the one in Edmore and Breckenridge too, so it'd be pretty easy to come up with something. But it's still time you pay me for. And I don't know why you wanna do that if you're not,
So answer
if
the
the
question,
majority-
your recommendation
I
is to
think-
answer the question
I
first, and
think you
then
answer the question
find the
first.
best way to do it.
And
I-
it doesn't even have to be, a solid, this is, but it would be foolish to say to me, hey, let's do an ordinance, if you got 4 commissioners who are saying, I don't want adult use in the city. You know what I mean? That's my take.
true.
I mean, I'd love to do the work for you, believe me, and I could use the money, but, you know what I'm saying? But I don't get it if it's not gonna be a thing. And so there might be, maybe an up and down vote on should Tony do it, might be like, am I leaning this way or not leaning this way or whatever, but it would seem to me that if, unless there's support, what am I doing it for?
I think the easiest
I think
solution.
we did make
I
a
don't
motion,
mean-
we did have a motion some meetings ago to move forward with looking at
Yeah,
it,
we
so.
did, yes, we did.
But anyway, that's just my take. I mean, I'd be happy to do it. I've done it before, and it wouldn't take a long time to get you something, but it just seems, I would think,
We have plenty of things to look, communities to look at. Like Tony just mentioned Breckenridge, living there, going through their
Breckenridge,
stuff right now.
Edmore's done it, the Village of Edmore and Montcalm County, and I represent both of them. And they, the Village of Edmore, I've already asked him, he has no problem with me sharing the
And
stuff.
most other municipalities don't
Yeah.
mind sharing things.
Yeah, and this was partly
Emerson,
my doing it.
did you work with them, Emerson, the township out here?
No, I don't
Yeah,
represent
okay.
Emerson, no. But, so, I mean, I'll do whatever you guys want, but.
Should we put it on as an agenda item
I
for the
would.
next time?
I
I
would
mean,
think so.
not tonight because we're missing a commission.
Well, not only that, it's not on
Yeah.
your,
And
it's
this
not
would
on
be
the-
something you
Yeah.
And if you
definitely
could
wanna
also
know the
bring
subject.
Yeah,
back
we'd wanna-
whatever it was we
Yeah,
voted on before, just as a reminder of what that language was, so.
I think your initial inkling of the subcommittee to maybe work through some of the details to present to the commission, I think wouldn't be a terrible idea. Because Eric does have a bunch of information, so we could start to lay that, a committee could start to lay that stuff out, then to present it at that, whatever meeting that may be.
Okay.
It's up to everyone here if they'd like to do the subcommittee or not. I mean, that just,
Well, we can have that
We did last
conversation
time.
next week,
Yeah.
or next
yeah.
meeting. Let's put it on the agenda and then we'll talk a little more depth about it. If you could remind
I
us of the
can-
language we talked about before,
Yep.
so we
We-
were up to speed on what that was, and we'll go from there.
and what we can do is, since there's been communities that say, yeah, go ahead and share ours, we can just share those ordinances in the newsletter and
Yeah.
such with you too, so.
Yeah, I could get
Okay.
those to you almost immediately.
Any final comments?
I would say that despite your comment to me, I take this very seriously, this position that I have here as a commissioner. So I'd like to be on record and on the camera that I do take this very seriously. So I didn't appreciate that comment, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Anybody else? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor be yes?
Yes.
Any opposed is no. Motion is carried.